Hi, Rinku. Cheers.
Hello, long time.
Long time. And to everyone, welcome to Talkatel. I know we have taken a long break. We are getting back almost after 2.5 months. But as much as you missed us, we missed being here. What say, Rinku?
Absolutely, Archana. It's been 2 months, a long break for us. But I think life happens, and you and I both have gone through a lot in these 2 months. Keeping that aside, it made me think when you called and you said that let's restart and let's get to the grind. I was thinking about the topic, and I guess it was very easy and it came quite naturally to me. And I think the good conversation that would matter today is how to start a conversation or how to restart a conversation after a break. So I think why don't we talk about that a little? What do you say?
Absolutely. And I think what you said was something that we all face after a very long, rather prolonged break, even if it is work or even if it is relationship. To restart, you really don't know where to go and where to start. So I think makes a lot of sense. Let's do this.
True. So before we jump on to our conversation, I think some disclaimers. So conversation, communication, the overlap, it's a huge topic to talk about. When we specifically talk about conversation, I think a lot depends upon what is the setting. Like, is it a formal conversation? Is it an informal conversation? Are you meeting the person for the first time? Are you meeting the person after a break or something? So there could be many, combinations here. But what we're going to talk about is some general rules. So do you want to start with the first rule?
So I think the first rule can be that whenever you're having a conversation, maybe even if it was you and me discussing as to how we're going to take Talkatel forward after a 2.5 months break, I think the first aspect was like, where do we start from? So the intent of any conversation has to be very clear as to why you're doing it. What is your specific reason of having that conversation? Because if you don't have an intent, if you don't have specifications in hand, it all goes haywire, right?
Agreed. Very well said. I think the second rule I would say is talking about or considering the relevance. I think it's very important for whatever conversation you're getting into. Make sure, we always talk about preparing yourself, but here you have to prepare about the relevance. Like, now you know your intent. Make sure you take your own stories which are relevant to that intent, your experiences, because you can't enter a conversation expecting the other person to do all the work for you, right? That you're going to ask a question and the person is going to answer. So I think the idea here is that you go with your own stories and experiences and help that conversation build beautifully between the two people or as many people as you're getting into. So second rule is relevance and prepare your own story. Go with your own box.
And the third one, which I actually have been realizing it very often, but yes, yesterday while we were talking about Talkatel made me realize it all the more, is, when you actually jump up after a long time into any conversation, you have so much to say that you feel that, my point has to be heard because I have something to talk about because it is very important. And yes, it is very important in a conversation to listen to what the other person also has to say. So I think listening stands a very, very important tool where we can actually gauge, we can understand, and at the same time, the conversation becomes more interesting when it is two-way. So I think listening is a very important tool.
Yeah, Archana, you brought up a very interesting point, which is about listening. I think people undermine it a lot, and it's a very critical part to have a good, healthy conversation. You brought up an interesting point, which is about going on and on and on and not stopping. The other factor also that comes out from this going on and on and on is that you go into a lot of times you get into a conversation with an intent or with the idea of never having a second conversation again. Like, you want to finish it all in one conversation. And so, when you were talking about the intent, you're talking about the preparation or the relevance, your box is so big. And of course, even if you're listening, you're unstoppable. I think that's a poison to any conversation. So I guess it would be a good idea to take a breath in between and listen. And while you listen, also see where you want to stop the conversation. Otherwise, it can just go the other way around. Like, the other person might just run away from you. And the vice versa can also happen. The person in front of you can also cling on to maybe a storyteller and very passionate about talking. So we should know how to stop the person respectfully.
Absolutely. And I think it all goes in a flow, right? The moment we started this conversation and the way it's going, it's just going in a flow. So again, it is also very important whenever you're in a flow, in a conversation with anybody, could be anybody, be authentic, be you. Because if you're not you, if you're trying to be somebody else, if you are trying to make a conversation just because you want to prove a point because somebody else did and you're just trying to barge on it, I think that goes very, very haywire. And again, the point here is that we don't want that to happen. So stay authentic, be you, and enjoy having these conversations as we do, because at Talkotel, we believe to have conversations that matter.
Yes, and the one big rule that I think is very important for good conversations is don't enter a conversation with an assumption or preconceived notions about the person or about the setup that you're entering into. Because what happens is that when you're already going with a preset mind, then the conversation can be very limited. So whenever we are attempting to enter a conversation, we should go with an open mind. And while we are clear with our agenda and we are relevant and we are following all those other rules, let's just also try not to assume. And I think just being open in a conversation sometimes goes a great deal in coming back with a lot of satisfaction of a good conversation.
Absolutely. I think these were some of the key points that, if taken into consideration, the conversation can actually be very, very fruitful. And yes, everybody can have their own set of rules which work best for them. But the point is that conversations are something that we all enjoy. Conversations as being people, since we enjoy people, I think that's a part of our system. And more so over if it is authentic and with the points that we just covered right now, makes it much more easier and at the same time impactful. And that is the need of the hour. So anything more you wish to add, Rinku, to this?
Just, what do I say? I think our audiences have been very patient with us. They have been waiting patiently for us to come back. So all I will say is, if you're on a short break or a long break and you are craving to have a conversation, be courageous and take that bold step and get out and have a conversation and restart the conversation that matters. I think that's why we are back here, Archana. And I hope everybody will enjoy this new evening with us.
Absolutely. So with that note, we'll see you next week with yet another topic that matters. Till then, bye-bye.
Bye.